Hey, welcome to This Old Bike, brought to you by I Know a Guy Bicycles. With this particular episode, we're going to do an editor's cut of revamping what was already released, kind of repurposed on its own channel. Welcome to This Old Bike. From here, we're going to take my 35 years experience, remaster the classics of the old days, 10 years or older bikes, as well as some tech tips in addition to vintage tools. Well, thank you for hanging out with my 35 years of experience. I'm going to guide you through this journey of checking out these classic bikes. Brought to you by The Guy. Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging with The Guy. Hey, I'm Justin The Guy on This Old Bike series. And whoa, look at this. Actually, gem of a gem. You're going to be able to find these in your neck of the woods because currently the prices of drop down, and the flooded market of used bikes, and not to period piece this one, but it's going into fall, which is a great time to buy used bikes, fall and winter. Reason being is that's the lowest part of a moving inventory. People are not on demand of purchasing. In addition to, we have a current state of the state where the cycling industries have overbuilt. There's too much stuff out there and the prices have dropped there. So yeah, we're in a hot mess situation, but this person took advantage of that. You can too. Can you take advantage of a used market? Absolutely, without paying too much. This particular bike, I would say he got it probably under 200 bucks. Seen a lot of them around there in that price range. Full carbon bikes around 300-400 too. Yeah, they may need a little work. Keep that in mind, especially in that price point. But you might be able to find one maybe a 6 or 7, which is in mint condition. But don't trust that individual who's selling it. I know, unless it's coming from a bike shop or a reputable guy in the garage like myself that does videos on their actual bikes. Because there's a lot of hidden things that the current owner may or may not know of, and it takes the expertise to be able to find those particular issues. Even when we take it apart, that's when we actually find those particular scenarios. Any case, this guy, first glance, as a put your hat on as a check-in mechanic, service rider, whatever you want to call them. First glance to the bikes, the fork is not original, been upgraded to the Origin 8. Origin 8 is a decent company out there that makes mid-range, upper-end componentry, more mid-range, but it's decent. The shifters are, if you see these particular shifters with these kind of covers, which they made them on the Ultrason 105s in the late 90s to early 2000s, like 2005, I think, when they stopped. They did it for about 8 years. If these covers are immaculate like these are, like no scuffages or scratches, this bike has not been used, or if it has been, taken care of. Because these little boogers usually pop, crack, and whatever, to a point where I've actually had some 3D printed to be able to cover the ones that I refurbished. Now I'm just looking for bikes in better condition because the prices have gone down, so I don't have to worry about that too much. But yourself, that's a great indicator. Also, any kind of scratches and scuffs around the shifters and the rear derailleur, those are points that stick out. So if you're going to biff it, you're going to hit one of those areas. So if those are clean without any abrasions or scarring, you got yourself a good chance that something's good. Yeah, this bike has a mix. It has a 105 Ultegra mix. That was pretty common within the period. It still is today. They like switching stuff out. But the 105 is pretty decent. It's only one step below, not like 5 steps below. And the differences that you may notice may be very minimal. There's a little bit of weight loss on the Ultegra stuff. But in any case, these are pretty cool. Also, to keep note, this particular Ultegra shifter, even though this is a double, the shifter is designed to do a triple. So if you want to actually put the money up front and get yourself a rear derailleur crankset, bottom bracket, and front derailleur to switch it over to a triple, you can. Used parts market, 100 bucks, 150 for the shifter derailleurs. Probably around 150, 200 bucks you can find on the used market. Maybe a little bit more because the triples are more looked for, sought after, and then the doubles. It all depends where you're riding. This individual is going to be riding mostly in the front range area, not really hitting the hills too much, so this particular group set is probably going to be just fine for him. But if he does decide to do that elevated upgrade, it can be possible, and those parts are readily available out there. There's quite a few. They made these for like 8 years, thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. So the parts are going to be around. And even though it's been like a couple decades after they've actually produced the last one, there's still a lot of them out there. I can find, if I got to need a derailleur, I'm going to go find a derailleur. If I need a front derailleur, oh, those are going to be easy to find. Cranksets, a little more expensive, a little bit harder to find, but they are out there too. And you don't have to do the Ultegra crankset triple. You can find something, maybe a 105 or maybe a Dura-Ace. I don't know if I go Dura-Ace. But in any case, back to the Cannondale. Cannondales are made in the United States. Decent frame. They are stiff though. Keep that in mind. So stiffness, acceleration, fast. So that might make you kind of consider a couple things to make a road bike less stiff. How do you do that? Well, carbon C-post is usually a good start. Second thing is maybe a little bit wider tire or a little bit lower pressure as well. So those two combinations and the saddle itself might actually definitely help you with that reducing of that jarring. There is shock C-post companies out there. I think Redshift is one. It's pretty popular, but I mean, the C-post itself is about as much as I'm going to put into this bike, so buyer beware on that. But there are options out there. You can also find maybe one of the cobbler gobblers on the specialized ones is the carbon with a little Z thing that gives up a little bit. There's a few other knockoff brands out there, so if you need to really kind of cut that edge off so you're not feeling it so much in your back, because that resonates right through your butt, that's something you might want to consider in any case. So with that being said, I did talk to the guy, and it was like when I had it here, and it's like, hey, maybe you want to get a carbon C-post, something like that, to do a little absorption versus the Cannondale setback aluminum. This will take up a little bit of that in the vibration. He's already upgraded the saddle to what is his liking. So between the C-post and the saddle, it might increase the comfort of the bike. Also, the bars on this are old school, so I figured, hey, why don't you go on Amazon and go find yourself some nice little carbon bars. They're not too expensive out there. And he also is upgrading to the 31.8 sizing versus the 26.6. If I'm incorrect, please comment below. I do forget. And I do have a stem that has a Cannondale stem to get rid of this chunk that's on there. That is Cannondale? I don't know. It is a Cannondale. Anyway, less weight, lighter weight. Not that he's really concerned about that. It's more comfort. And I found these bladed bars to be a little more comfort, distributing the weight a little bit more differently. So he's going to give these a try. Also, these are kind of fun because they have an internal cable routing, so I'll have to do the brake cabling through here. And it is big enough if you did have a shifter brake lever combo, you can definitely upgrade these. And they're going to be significantly lighter than what he has on there. But mainly it's more for comfort. That being said, carbon fork too. This comes with the Mavic Cosmic Elite wheels, which are pretty known to be pretty nice back in the day. Bladed spokes, kind of a bladed rim on there. If I remember correctly, the wheel sets were like $500 or $600 back in the day. So anyway, whoever had this originally upgraded the fork. I believe it didn't come with those wheels, and therefore has not ridden it too much. Also, he also vetted and took my advice of buying from original owner. There's so much benefits to that. Reason being, number one, they have a little more pride in their bike, therefore they've taken care of it. It's not a secondhand sell and didn't get thrown around. Plus, they know the history of it, in addition to how many times it's been tuned up, how much they've ridden it, how much they worked on it, how much the bike shop's worked on it. And if the listing says just tuned up, you want to ask who tuned it up. That is a big question, because who could be, oh, I tuned it up myself, which means aired the tires, put some lube on the chain, and took for a little test ride. Yeah, that is not a tune-up. Sorry, not sorry. Looking at the situation when you do a tune-up, anybody's standard tune-up of any professional bike shop, even the lower one, is going to include, most likely, not all times, but most likely, truing the wheels, adjusting the hubs, adjusting the bottom bracket, headset, shifting, and brakes. Also including inspection and replacing any parts that need to make it safe to ride. Safe to ride is our end game. Bottom line, we want it to be safe to ride and it's working at its highest performance for that particular package. If the customer ups the package to replacing cables, drivetrain clean, all those things, that elevates the price. If they just said they had it freshly tuned, ask for a receipt. See what kind it is. Vet that bike shop. What is in your standard tune-up? You can probably find it on their website and go, oh, this is what they did to it. If that is not what has been done to the bike, also people have horrible memory. They may not remember when that tune-up was done. Oh, it was done last spring. Well, that was 3 years ago last spring. I know, I'm getting older and time just starts spooling. Before you know it, this video will hit and be like, oh, I remember when I worked on that bike. Ah, pretty blue. In any case, little sticky stuff on the actual frame. He brought it in for my Magic tune-up, which basically is the drivetrain clean, basic tune, or not basic tune, it's the standard above, so I'm doing a drivetrain clean. So I'm going to elevate that. He's a good customer. He's brought in a couple bikes to me. So I'm going to do a SUP Magic, Super Magic. So I'm going to take it, strip it down to the frame, or basically frame and fork, do a detailing on the frame to triple inspect it, give it a ceramic coating, which is a lot of videos in my library for that. In addition to drivetrain clean, ultrasonic cleaner, a lot of videos on that in my library too. And also cables and replacement and what needs to be replaced. Some of the cables housing look okay, but I might do the cleanup swap. Plus these shifters over time, even though they look immaculate, that original Shimano grease, that fluorescent green stuff, will harden. And when that hardens, it really manipulates that pawl system and keeps it from shifting very well. So you can take these shifters, put it in the ultrasonic cleaner at temperature, a little bit higher. I do mine around about 45 to 50 Celsius. And what that does is kind of help melt that old gunk out there. And I spray a little bit of carb or brake cleaner inside the actual mechanism to kind of shed some of that stuff out beforehand. I only cook it for about 5 minutes, and that usually breaks it up. And when you run it under hot water after you do the ultrasonic cleaner, you run through the cycle of shifting, it'll flush out all that gunk stuff. And then after it dries, I use the Superior Lube from Triflow. The foaming stuff works well because, and that's usually the only thing I use, the foaming stuff, and I actually ordered it by accident, and it turned out to be a great accident. Because when you shoot it inside there, it expands out and it kind of drips over all those pawls and everything inside. So it gives it a good lube flush without constantly dripping too much in there. And that way it reduces as much or limits the waste, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It actually gets in all those little mechanisms, run through the cycles again, and it gets the shifters to be really crisp and clean. Done that to shifters for several years now. Works great, especially on older stuff. It gives that chance of ultrasonic cleaners have given a lot of chances for those old shifters that we thought back in the day were toast, back to life, and actually sometimes performing better than they were before. Okay, side note on that, all the brakes are going to go in there too, drivetrain too, and chain is not stretched, so that's a good indication, so we're good there. Hey, I think this is an awesome buy. I mean, this guy, he has himself a gravel bike, and he wanted to be, man, I want something a little bit faster on pavement, you know, like paved trails and road, and a lot of riding around here. And I believe his significant other has a road bike, which I've done a tune-up to. You can find that in my library before. It's a Specialized Dolce, and that, you know, this is a good complement to that. The Dolce is aluminum, this one's aluminum too, so they can just be a perfectly cute little couple riding down the trail. Yes, you know it. In any case, everybody loves to have a good riding partners with them when they're having a good time. Any kinds of worries about aluminum? Over a long period of time, a lot of hard riding, you can develop cracking. That's just going to happen, but it takes a lot of riding to get there. Or if that cracking's happened, it's either a manufacturer boo-boo when they didn't treat it or heat treat it correctly when they were doing it. This particular vintage, they did a pretty solid production runs on these, and I haven't seen very many, of hardly any at all, having any issues. They're just a nice, fast, stiff, made in America bike. Did that come out right? I don't know. In any case. So we got some nice upgrades. Gonna have to dive into this, clean it up. I'm gonna time to check out here and crank some tunes, get focused, and get down to business on this guy. But in any case, if I come across anything, I'll highlight that here shortly. If not, we'll just go straight to the review of parts and what the conditions they are in. I'm going to do the full magic tune-up on this guy, ceramic coating. He doesn't want a wax chain, so we'll use nice light lube, drip lube. If I'm not using wax chains, which is pretty much all the time now, I'm using Rock and Road. Looks like this stuff here. The yellow Rock and Road seems to work really well. It doesn't cake up and build up a lot of that stuff in there. Also, you notice these guys will do a little settlement on a lot of these lubes. What you can do as a industry trick, and if you're a road biker or mountain biker or anybody that's using a Presto valve, is you'll have these extra grommets rolling around. Put one in there. I think you'll see it. That becomes a little shaker for you. Yeah, that way it breaks up that Teflon that they have in there and mix it with the actual liquid for application. That liquid mostly dries, so you're not usually getting very much of lube on there. But there's a couple different ways of lubing your chain. There's one way for doing wax and one way of doing drip lubes like that. But in any case, we're going to dive into this beauty and see if we find any scary mysteries. Is there going to be a mystery? I don't think so. Maybe. Whoa, 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 whoa. Check this out. Ceramic coated. Super true. Man, this has turned out to be quite awesome. I used the Mother's ceramic spray wax on the wheels, and then I did Armor All tire shine. Even though they're new tires, it adds a little added protection from UV of Colorado. There's a new bar and seat post, and there's the seat. Put a little ceramic coating on that, just because. And here's the parts. Super clean. Look at that. Here's the old seat post and the clamp. Cassette turned out really nice. Look at these shifters. These are, except for that little chipping underneath, is like new. Put a little coating on this too as well. But man, hardly any scarring. And here's this little trick, a little gold nugget, barkeeper's friend. I use this for cleaning copper, my copper mugs that I drink adult beverages out of. And here is a great application to clean up, attention to detail of the copper buttons of the bottle cage. All right, here we got the front derailleur all clean, rear derailleurs all clean, the jockey pulleys all clean, ready to go, and as well as the crank set. Took it all apart so I can get into these little areas where it's really hard to get to if it's dirty. It had a caked on lubricant, so I want to make sure I got that all cleaned up. And there's the extra bits. Old bar. Yep, and there we go. I did compound polish from Adams on the bike frame using the Dremel buffer, and then I did my favorite, ceramic slam. This is definitely a 2-stack, 3-stack. So go over the frame a couple times, but we'll go over that in a second. But here is the chain. The reason why that's still cooling. Here's the old chain. It had some rust. And this is after cleaning it too, by the way. That rust is penetrating those rollers, which is no bueno, not good at all. So got a hold of the customer and said, hey, you probably should just do a chain. Do you want me to wax it? And he said, yeah, go for it since you're getting a new chain on there. So bam, there it is. I'm upgrading to, it's a SRAM PC 971. So it's pretty decent chain with a quick link. So it's not stretched that far anyway, so these cassette chain rings should work just fine without any skipping. But without further ado, let's take a look at this frame. Bam! Look at that shine. I knocked it down already. We have 2, 3 stack. I go over it a couple times while I'm doing the wheels. I go back and forth, and give it about 3 or 4 coatings, just to make sure I get everything coated at least a couple times. So yeah, it might be overkill, but frames are hard to get into. It's not like you're carting, redo your hood. It's like all these bits and areas are covered up by bike parts, and it's really hard to get to them. So I wanted to put a really nice coating on it. And the ceramic coating will last 8 months to a year. On a car, on a bike, it will last longer because you're not, I mean, it's not exposed to outside as much as the vehicle is. Look at that shine. And I figured if I do a 2-stack, a complete 100% 2-stack, which is almost like a 4-stack, and double up on areas where you get more contaminants, this should last up to those 2 to 3, 5-year marks. But needless to say, if you need to refresh it, this is what's recommended by Lithium. Lithium comes out with their own polish. It's Color Crush. And what this is designed to do is work with that ceramic coating that's already there. So if you need to refresh it, instead of trying to recoat it with ceramic, you use Color Crush to bring out and add a layer of protection with your current ceramic coating. So it kind of preserves it, so forth. And as for wax chains, okay, everybody's all questioning about wax chains, right? Well, what happens if it starts squeaking? Do I have to take it into the shop every time? No, actually. So, I'm using Secret Chain Blend from Silka. They make the same thing in a bottle. It is the same tungsten disulfide with paraffin wax, blended with 4 different types of paraffin apparently. What they do is emulsify it with 10% water, so it makes it a liquid state. So you use your chain, you ride it, get that 3 to 5 to 600 miles out of it, and it starts making noise. Then what you do is you put a drop on each roller. You can do this on the bike, and then you kind of rotate the chain several times. I'll make a video later about that, or how to apply. I do have already videos that show that, but it's on a longer waxing, but I'll specifically do it. Or you can take a chain and put it on the bench and put your rollers face up, and then you can drop each link, let it sit, and then rotate it and do another side. One refresh here should get a couple hundred more miles out of it. What you're doing is basically filling in the voids of where the old wax is, and if it drips too much on there, don't worry, it'll shed right off. And you don't need to do it for every ride. It's like, I would say, 3 to 500 miles or so. And then once a year, have the heat. Nothing replaces the heat element of it. That really kind of, you want to shed out. I do a 2-part system. That's the dirty wax, and then once you redo that, then you could refresh it with clean wax. And basically what I do is I rotate and I skim off the old stuff where the settlement is. So that's my little process. But hey, this bike is going to be immaculate. There's the rear wheel, should feature that too. Cosmic Elite, I mean, come on. Hubs are super good. Rim wheel too. Rim surface has not really have a concave to it, which means it has less use. What that means is less use. You can tell here, brake surface, it gets burred down. Basically, it comes into like a shape like this versus flat, and that's when you can kind of look at the actual rim and notice if it's been used a lot or not. But this is in really good shape. With that wax coating on there, it'll save the decals too, all that. So, all right, let's review after I get this all reassembled, new cables and housing, and put it all together. This is going to be a day 2 project, so you'll see me in a different shirt, I'm sure. In any case, yeah, check this out. It's still under 500 into it, which is pretty amazing for a used bike. And my goodness, this bike frame has hardly any scratches or chips, just a few here and there, barely, and everything else I buffed out. Looks amazing in the sun with that ceramic coating. Super slick. Parts cleaned up really well with that wax chain. The new chain is going to be super smooth. Did upgrade those bars. I replaced the stacks with carbon stacks to, you know, matchy, make it look nice for them. There you go, with Cosmic Elite wheels from Mavic, however you want to say it. Well, there you go. That's one hell of a ride. Be interesting to see what he thinks after a couple rides. Is it the bike for him? Everything he was hoping and wanting and expecting, or is it not? Yeah, he's coming from the getting into in the gravel world, so he's getting on the road, so we'll see. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me and checking out this Cannondale R900si CAAD5 made in the United States road bike. And again, if you have a bike like this or anything like that, please put a comment below. It is a community. It makes you to make this community, so thank you for joining us and continuing to do so. I'll put information I have in the description below in addition to. Well, that concludes this episode of This Old Bike. Thank you for tuning in and watching through the final reveal of the perfect bike for you. Maybe, maybe not. But in any case, I hope you learned some things along the way in the journey of a bike mechanic refurbishing these particular beautiful gems of the past, which are very relevant of today. Thanks for tuning in, and you will find other videos like these. Go ahead and click here to enjoy more refurbished, detailed bikes that are from the past.